My brother tried to force me to pay for his $50,000 wedding, so my lawyer husband showed up to dinner and ended his entire scheme in one move. Hi Reddit, my name is Julia, I'm 33, and I learned the hard way that sometimes family dinner can mean walking straight into a trap set by your own blood. My younger brother Chris, 28, has always been the golden boy of the family. The sun pretty much rose and set around him. If he wanted something, my parents would move heaven and earth to make it happen. Me? I was always the responsible, predictable one, the one who played it safe, focused on my career, and never asked for anything. I work in tech, have a steady life, and I'm married to the most grounded man I know, Ethan, 36, a corporate attorney who's quiet, smart, and brilliant with money and people. Chris, on the other hand, lives for the spotlight. When he proposed to his girlfriend, he did it like a movie scene. He rented a Ferrari, hired a drone videographer, and uploaded the whole thing on TikTok. And of course, the wedding plans were even more extravagant. A $50,000 country club venue, 200 guests, an open bar, a live band, basically, the kind of event only a millionaire could afford. But the catch? He expected me to pay for it. It started with a text message. Chris. Hey Jules, can you cover the $50,000 for the wedding? You know you make more than all of us. I'll pay you back someday. I remember staring at my phone, half laughing, half fuming. I replied, Chris, I'm not your bank. If you can't afford it, scale it down. And just like that, the guilt parade began. Mom called first. Don't embarrass us, Julia. Family always helps family. Do you want people talking? Then Dad joined in, saying how Chris deserved a special day. But I held my ground. I wasn't paying for a party I didn't even plan. A few days later, Chris invited Ethan and me over for a quiet dinner. Ethan, always perceptive, frowned the moment I told him. Something feels off, he said calmly. Let's be ready. So he gathered a folder of legal documents just in case. We showed up that evening, expecting dinner, but the moment we walked in, my stomach dropped. There was no food, no music, nothing warm or inviting. Just three men in suits sitting at the dining table, with Chris standing beside them looking far too serious. Before I could even speak, he pushed a stack of papers toward me and said coldly, just sign these. You agree to pay, or I'll sue. Mom and Dad are witnesses. Don't make this ugly. I blinked, staring at him. I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all, but I could see he was dead serious. Then I glanced at Ethan, who had been quietly observing the scene with the calm of a man who already knew exactly how this would end. Ethan, I said softly, would you mind handling this? He nodded, set his own folder on the table, and looked directly at the three lawyers. His voice was cool and controlled as he said, I'm Julia's legal counsel. Here's a notice of representation. Inside, you'll also find documentation of attempted extortion, harassment, and a draft of a restraining order that will be filed if this continues. He then met Chris's eyes and finished, if you keep this up, we'll see you in court, but not on your terms. The room went completely silent. The lawyers looked through Ethan's folder, their faces shifting as they realized exactly what they were dealing with. Without saying another word, they packed their papers, stood up, and left. Chris's face was red, not from embarrassment, but from rage. He just stood there, mouth open, watching his plan collapse in seconds. Ethan gave me a gentle smile, took my hand, and said, Come on, let's get a real dinner. And that was only the beginning. As soon as we left Chris's apartment, my phone started exploding with calls. Mom, Dad, Chris, one after another. I let every single one go to voicemail. Ethan drove us to a small Mexican restaurant near our home. He ordered me a margarita the size of my face and said, Breathe. You did nothing wrong. I tried to laugh, but my hands were shaking. Who does that to their own sister? By the next morning, the family group chat was on fire. Mom, how could you bring a lawyer to family dinner? You embarrassed your brother. Dad, we raised you better than this. You're tearing the family apart. Chris, you've always been selfish. I hope you're happy ruining my wedding. Mom again, "You're not welcome at the ceremony unless you apologize." I'll be honest, it hurt. I remember when Chris and I used to be close. He was my goofy little brother who followed me around everywhere. Now he saw me as nothing more than a walking checkbook. Ethan tried to comfort me, his voice steady and warm. "You did nothing wrong, Julia. They crossed a line. You protected yourself." He suggested we take a short vacation, just to get away from the chaos. But there was a stubborn part of me that refused to be bullied or shamed. I wasn't going to back down. Then, over the weekend, Chris's fiancé posted a not-so-subtle rant on Instagram. Some people pretend to care about family, but they'd rather lawyer up than support the happiest day of our lives. The post was drowned in heart emojis and comments from her friends about toxic siblings. Meanwhile, my parents went into full campaign mode, calling every relative they could think of, aunts, uncles, even cousins I barely knew, trying to guilt me into paying up. Some texted me, others called, and a few sent pathetic messages like, "Life's too short to fight about money." Apparently, no one cared that Chris had literally tried to ambush me with lawyers. Ethan, always thinking ahead, told me, "Keep everything. Every text, every call. Screenshot everything. We're building a record." By Monday morning, I got a formal letter from Chris's new lawyer, demanding payment and threatening to sue for emotional distress. Ethan just laughed, dropped the letter into a folder labeled evidence, and said calmly, "Let them try. They're digging their own grave." What I didn't know was that Chris had just set off a chain reaction that would completely destroy his own wedding plans. Within a week, the family drama exploded like a bomb. It felt like our entire extended family had become armchair legal experts overnight. My phone was flooded with messages, advice, and even some awful memes about greedy sisters. My childhood best friend even texted me, "What's going on? Why is your brother posting about you on Facebook?" While Chris was busy playing victim on social media, Ethan was quietly preparing a counterattack, methodical, precise, and absolutely unstoppable. He documented everything: the fake dinner ambush, the threatening letters, the social media smear campaign, even the manipulative calls from my parents. He organized it all into a neat file. Then he sent a single, formal response to Chris's new lawyer, CCing Chris and my parents. The email read like cold fire. "Any further contact regarding these baseless financial demands will be considered harassment. Be advised that we are prepared to pursue all legal remedies, including claims for emotional distress, reputational harm, and attorney's fees. This is your only warning." After that, it was like someone turned off a switch. The call stopped. The group chat fell silent. No more letters. But Chris's wedding plans were crumbling fast. Turns out, he told his vendors that I was paying for everything. Once they realized he'd lied, half the contracts were canceled. The country club demanded a new deposit. The florist backed out after a bounce check. Even his fiancé's parents refused to bail him out, calling the whole thing a circus. My parents went from furious to desperate. Mom called me crying, begging me to fix it. Dad tried threatening to cut me off, which was hilarious because I'd been independent since college. Through it all, Ethan stayed calm and supportive. "You didn't cause this," he reminded me. "You just refused to be used." For the first time in years, I stopped feeling guilty. I started feeling free. But just when I thought it was over, Chris crossed the ultimate line. A week later, I got a call from my bank's fraud department. "Hi, Miss Anderson," the rep said cautiously. "We received a loan application for $25,000 under your name, but the signature doesn't match your records." My heart dropped. I told them immediately, "That's not me." They froze the account and promised to investigate. 20 minutes later, Ethan's identity monitoring service alerted him. Chris had tried to forge my signature for a family emergency loan. Ethan didn't hesitate. He gathered every piece of evidence: the fraud attempt, the messages, the extortion threats, the lawyer letters, and made 2 calls, one to the bank's fraud department and one to a police contact he knew personally. Within 24 hours, law enforcement paid Chris a visit. The fallout was immediate. Mom called, screaming, "How could you do this to your brother? He was desperate. Dad tried guilt-tripping me. Drop the charges, Julia. Blood is thicker than water. Chris himself texted me, you heartless witch. Fix this or I'll tell everyone what you really are. But I didn't reply. Not this time. I forwarded everything to Ethan. That night, we sat at our kitchen table as he organized the documents into a packet for our attorney. You're not responsible for saving them from the consequences of their actions, he said gently. And for the first time in my life, I believed him. The next morning, my parents created a new group chat with every relative imaginable, even Chris's fiancé's parents. Mom sent the first message. Julia is destroying this family. She called the police on her own brother. But then, Cousin Matt dropped the bomb. He attached a screenshot of Chris's forged loan application from social media. This signature doesn't match Julia's. The chat went silent. Within hours, the tone shifted. Messages started coming in privately. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, Julia. Chris went too far. You don't owe him anything. Even Chris's fiancée ended things publicly. She posted a simple statement. I refuse to marry into the circus. Chris tried one last desperate move, threatening to sue me for emotional damages. Ethan responded with a single line. Cease all contact, or we'll pursue criminal and civil remedies to the fullest extent. The silence that followed was absolute. My parents went quiet too. For the first time in my life, I muted the family group chat, turned off my phone, and slept peacefully. A week later, the fraud case was officially closed. Chris was issued a formal warning and put on a watch list for any future attempts. Ethan and I celebrated with pizza and a movie night. Just the two of us, no drama, no guilt, no calls from manipulative relatives. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined, but it was the closure I needed. 3 weeks later, Chris's wedding was officially canceled. His ex-fiancée's family cut contact entirely, and even the most judgmental relatives finally admitted I'd done nothing wrong. The family chat is quiet now. Occasionally someone sends a half-hearted hope you're well, but I don't engage. I'm done playing the villain in their story. Ethan and I are planning a small vacation, somewhere peaceful, with no phones, no family drama, just the two of us and the sound of the ocean. And as for Chris, the last I heard, he was trying to crowdfund money for a fresh start. I genuinely wish him luck. But for once in my life, I'm staying out of it. If you enjoyed my story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. More stories coming soon.